Welcome to Creation of Our World, the podcast where we dive deep into the artistry and science behind the things we love. I'm your host, Kelly, and today we're uncapping a topic that's as ancient as civilization itself, beer. And to guide us through this fascinating world of malt, hops, and yeast, we have a very special guest. Mark is a former brewmaster with over 2 decades of experience crafting award-winning beers. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about my favorite subject.
We're thrilled to have you. So 20 years as a brewmaster, that's impressive. I have to imagine you have some wild stories from the brew house. Is there a particular thrilling experience that sticks out?
Oh, definitely. I remember one time we had a power outage right in the middle of the boil for a massive batch of our flagship IPA. The boil is a critical stage where you add the hops and sterilize the wort. When the power went out, the steam heating stopped, the pumps died. Everything just went silent.
Oh no, what do you do in that situation? Is the batch ruined?
It was a real risk. We had thousands of dollars of ingredients sitting there, cooling down, becoming a prime target for infection. We had about a 30-minute window before we'd have to dump it. The whole team was scrambling. We ended up rigging a small gas-powered pump to at least keep the wort circulating so it wouldn't scorch when the power came back on. We were literally stirring this giant kettle with oversized paddles by hand.
Wow, all hands on deck.
Exactly. The power came back on with minutes to spare. We cranked the heat, finished the boil, and held our breath for 2 weeks during fermentation. In the end, it turned out to be one of the best batches we ever made. We called it the Blackout IPA. It told me that brewing is all about controlled chaos and quick thinking.
An incredible story. It speaks to the idea that brewing isn't a monolithic process. It's different everywhere. You've traveled a lot. How do brewing styles change from country to country, say Germany versus Belgium?
That's a great question, and the differences are profound. In Germany, it's all about precision, tradition, and purity. They have the Reinheitsgebot, the German beer purity law from 1516, which originally stated beer could only contain water, barley, and hops.
Right, the purity law.
Exactly. So German styles, like a Pilsner or a Bock, are incredibly clean, showcasing the quality of those core ingredients. It's a testament to technical mastery. You can't hide any flaws.
So it's all about perfection of the basics.
Precisely. Then you go to Belgium, and it's almost the exact opposite. Belgian brewing is about expression, complexity, and yeast. They throw everything in the pot. Spices like coriander and orange peel, different types of sugars, fruits. The real star in Belgium is the yeast. Their yeast strains produce these incredible flavors, fruity esters, spicy phenols. It's wild, artistic, and beautifully unpredictable.
That's a fantastic way to put it. This all sounds wonderfully complex, which I think is the perfect lead-in for our main topic. For our listeners who love beer but have no idea how it's made, can you walk us through the process? Let's start from the very beginning.
Of course, the journey of beer starts with its soul, malted barley. Raw barley grain doesn't have the right kind of sugars for yeast to eat, so the first step is malting, where we trick the grain into starting to sprout by soaking it in water. This develops crucial enzymes inside.
Enzymes, okay.
Then we stop the sprouting by drying it in a kiln. A gentle drying creates pale malts for lagers, while a hotter, longer roast creates dark, chocolatey malts for stouts. That kilning process is where a beer's color and many of its core flavors are born.
So we have our malted barley. What's next?
Next, we mill it, or crush it, just enough to crack open the husk and expose the starches inside. Then comes the mash. We mix this crushed grain with hot water in a vessel called the mash tun. It's basically like making a giant batch of porridge.
And what's happening in that porridge?
This is where those enzymes we developed earlier wake up and get to work. They convert the complex starches from the grain into simpler fermentable sugars. The brewer can control the temperature here to determine how sweet or dry the final beer will be.
So you're creating the sugar. Then how do you get it out?
We separate the sweet liquid from the grain solids. The grain husks create a natural filter bed, and we rinse everything with more hot water to wash out all those sugars. The resulting liquid is called wort. It's essentially unfermented beer.
Okay, so we have wort. This is where the hops come in, right?
Exactly. The wort is transferred to a kettle and brought to a vigorous boil for about an hour. We add hops at different times during the boil. Hops added early provide bitterness, which balances the sweetness of the malt. Hops added late provide flavor and aroma, those citrusy, piney, or floral notes.
Got it. So after the boil, we have hot, bitter, sweet liquid.
Correct. Now we have to cool it down as fast as possible. This is critical to prevent contamination. Once it's cooled, we move it to a fermentation tank and introduce the star of the show, yeast.
And the yeast is what makes the alcohol?
Yes, yeast eats the sugars we created and in return produces alcohol and carbon dioxide. This is fermentation. It can take a few days or many weeks depending on the yeast strain and beer style. The two main types are ale yeast, which ferments warm, and lager yeast, which ferments cold.
And after the yeast is done eating?
We have what's called green beer. It needs to be conditioned or aged for a while at cold temperatures. This allows the flavors to mellow and meld together and for the beer to clarify. Finally, it's carbonated, either by force injecting CO2 or through a natural process in the bottle or keg, and then it's packaged, from grain to glass.
That is so fascinating, and you've made it incredibly clear. Understanding the process actually makes me think about some of the things people always say about beer. I feel like there are a lot of myths out there. Can we debunk a few?
I'd love to. Let's do it. What's the first one?
Okay, the big one. Dark beers are always stronger and heavier than light-colored beers. True or false?
Absolutely false. That's probably the most common misconception. As we just discussed, the color of a beer comes from the roast level of the malt. You can use a small amount of highly roasted, dark malt to make a beer black, but still have it be low in alcohol and light in body. Can you give an example? Sure. A classic Irish dry stout like Guinness is famously black, but it only has about 4.2% alcohol by volume, and it's quite light-bodied. On the other hand, a Belgian triple or a barley wine can be golden or amber in color, but pack a punch at 9 or 10% alcohol, or even higher. Color has no direct correlation to strength or calories.
That's mind-blowing. Okay, myth number 2. Beer should always be served ice cold.
False again. In fact, serving beer too cold is a disservice to it. Extreme cold numbs your taste buds and suppresses the beer's aroma and flavor compounds. Mass-produced light lagers are often served ice cold because, frankly, there isn't much flavor to suppress.
So different styles should be served at different temperatures?
Exactly. A crisp Pilsner is great cold, around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, but a complex IPA shows its hop character better around 45 to 50 degrees. And a rich, flavorful Imperial Stout or a Belgian ale should be served even warmer, maybe 50 to 55 degrees, to allow all those complex malt and yeast flavors to open up. A good rule is the darker and stronger the beer, the warmer the serving temperature.
That's a great tip. All right, next up, canned beer is lower quality than bottled beer.
This might be the biggest reversal in beer history. It used to be true, but today it's completely false. Modern cans have a water-based polymer lining, so the beer never touches aluminum. There's no metallic taste. In fact, cans are actually superior to bottles for preserving beer quality.
Superior?
How? Because they protect the beer from its two greatest enemies, light and oxygen. Cans are completely light-proof, and they create a more airtight seal than a bottle cap. This brings us to our final myth, which is related.
Let's hear it.
What causes a beer to get that skunky smell? Many people think it's from beer getting warm and then cold again.
Right, that's what I've always heard.
Totally false. Temperature fluctuation doesn't do it. Skunking is a specific chemical reaction caused by light. When UV light hits hop compounds in beer, it creates a chemical that is almost identical to the one a skunk sprays. It's called being light struck.
So that's why many beers come in brown bottles?
Exactly. Brown glass blocks about 98% of the harmful UV rays. Green glass only blocks about 20%, which is why some imported beers in green bottles are notoriously prone to being skunky. And clear glass offers zero protection. A can, being opaque, offers 100% protection from white.
Wow, so always choose cans or brown bottles if you can. This has been so enlightening. Okay, so now that we know how beer is made and what's true and false about it, how do we apply this at the dinner table? I always default to wine for food pairing. Can you give me a crash course in pairing beer with food?
Absolutely. Beer is incredibly food-friendly. There are three basic principles: complement, contrast, or cut. You either want to match flavors, create an interesting opposition, or use the beer to cleanse the palate.
Okay, give me some classic examples. What goes with a spicy Thai green curry?
That's a perfect one for a hoppy IPA. The bitterness of the hops stands up to and contrasts with the spice, while the citrusy notes from the hops complement the lime and lemongrass in the curry. The carbonation also helps cut through the richness of the coconut milk. It's a classic pairing.
That makes sense. What about something like a rich chocolate lava cake for dessert?
There, you want to complement. A rich, roasty imperial stout or a porter is perfect. The coffee and dark chocolate notes from the roasted malt in the beer will harmonize beautifully with the dessert. It's like having a mocha with your cake.
I love that. One more. What about just a classic burger and fries?
For that, I'd go with a clean, crisp German Pilsner or an American Pale Ale. Here, the beer's job is to cut through the fat and richness of the burger and cleanse your palate. The crisp carbonation scrubs your tongue clean, getting you ready for the next bite. It's a simple, refreshing pairing that just works.
Complement, contrast, and cut. I'll remember that. Mark, this has been an absolutely phenomenal deep dive into the world of beer. Thank you so much for sharing your passion and expertise with us today.
It was my absolute pleasure, Kelly. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in to Creation of Our World. Join us next time when we explore the fascinating process behind hand-thrown pottery. Until then, stay curious. Don't forget to like and subscribe.